Mustering a steer in the small town of Stroud, the Camp Draft and Rodeo attracts hundreds from interstate, but organisers were just weeks away from pulling the pin, with drought and very few cattle to blame.
We've got together enough numbers to run it, but it was touch and go there for a little while, yeah.
Events like this need more than 1,000 cattle to get the go-ahead, all required to be in a healthy, strong condition. Luckily, several cattle donors came to the rescue, and now the pens are full to the brim. With other camp drafts in the Upper Hunter and Northwest cancelled due to dry conditions this year, it was a real concern to lose such a vital event.
For little towns like this and the towns that have had to cancel, it's a boost for the local district.
But as the saying goes, the show must go on, and it's doing just that this weekend.
Over today and tomorrow in the camp draft, we've got about 750 competitors, and over the two rodeos, we've got just on 600.
The action continues from 7 a.m. tomorrow, with the Rodeo Committee also gathering donations for the Hunter Medical Research Institute.
We've been donating to them for about 20 years now, and I think we're in the $450,000 mark.
Samantha Long, NBN News.
Heaps of people come in, and no 2 days are ever the same, but it's just about, getting alongside of them, supporting them.
I'm very, very grateful for this service, and I want it to be out there so that everyone can know that is exactly what this community needs.
Spring has clearly sprung. Hardcore punters packing Newcastle Jockey Club, group races dominating Cup Day. Backing favourites proving lucrative early on before a blowout. $31 chance Neruda winning the NBN News Maiden Plate. Presenters Natasha Bayersdorf, Jane Goldsmith and Mitchell Hughes congratulating the winning connections.
It's very good racing. A lot of the experts tell me probably the best Newcastle Cup day of racing for several decades, so we're very excited.
The racing continues tomorrow, however, eyes could wander. An even larger, better dressed crowd expected on Ladies' Day.
Being a Saturday, it's an easier day to get here for a lot of people who can't take a Friday off, so we're expecting probably a larger crowd tomorrow than today. The girls frock up and have a few bubbles hopefully, and yes, there's fashion on the field and it's more of a social day.
The advice from organisers, choose your outfit very carefully. Sam Burbury, NBN News.
The main thing I've been working on this year is just, that difference between the under-19s age group and playing with the big boys. I've had a really good preparation this year, first year out of school, actually, being at the training session with the guys.
Having returned to Australia to play for the Mariners, then Melbourne Victory, Mitch Austin's career was on the rise. It was until a routine training session last November, a torn ACL and a season over in an instant.
Yeah, it's pretty devastating, to be honest. But yeah, no, I kept positive. You know, my family and friends, I tried to, keep in contact with them, because that was the hardest thing, because I was on my own. So it was just, no one else was injured. It was just me and the physio down there. So I learnt a lot. It mentally toughened me up. I don't want to waste this year now. I want to, really kick on this season.
Thrown a lifeline by Ernie Merrick, he's signed a one-season deal.
Just to finally get it all sorted, it's a good feeling.
Well aware of the transformations by other wingers under the Scotsman.
I had a chat in his office, and that was some of the things he said, like obviously Dimmy and Andrew when he was here. Yeah, he's got a track record with players like that. I still, even though I am 27, probably getting on now, but I've still, got that belief that I can get better.
Today also marked Brazilian recruit Jair's first session with his teammates. He wasn't on the ball, instead completing some fitness work with Roy O'Donovan.
He looks the goods, so hopefully he can bring that to Newcastle, and I'll certainly take a few of his moves if I can.
There's been some odd sights around town this week. Maitland signage up and down Beaumont Street, and even a Passmore Oval, while further west the Blacks clubhouse gained a new recruit, arriving with a distinctly Hamilton makeover.
Mate, that's what grand finals are about, a healthy rivalry between Maitland and Hamilton over the last 8 years.
Both sides have embraced the build-up. This year's decider has a certain spark.
It's got a really good buzz about Maitland at the moment, and they're a really good community club as well, and I'm expecting a massive crowd tomorrow, and it's exciting for us as well, someone new.
The fun ends tomorrow though. Hamilton aiming for their 4th straight crown. They're preparing for a free-flowing Maitland side, armed with a licence to thrill.
We just want to play the way we've played all year, You never put a blanket on any of our guys, we throw the ball around, we enjoy our rugby. That's the main part.
We've found a couple of little things there that we're going to try to exploit. But possession, patience and controlled aggression is going to be the key factors for both teams.
Maitland today claimed an early victory. Carl Manu claiming back-to-back Anderson medals as the competition's Player of the Year.
You've got so many good players around in the NRHU, and to get this, it's, I honestly got no words to say.
Dangling from a stacker reclaimer above the largest coal port on Earth, protester Max Kermey demands urgent action on climate change.
This is not a jobs versus greenies argument. This is everyone. We need to stop burning this stuff. It is poisonous. It is cooking our planet.
The 23-year-old was among 26 people eventually arrested for locking onto infrastructure across the region. Also among them, 96-year-old veteran Bill Ryan and grandmother Susie Gold.
At the end of the day, a majority of people were really well behaved, but there was a few that decided to put their own safety at risk.
Others took a more theatrical approach, convening Climate Court, a demonstration mocking our politicians.
The police here today aren't here for our safety. They're here to make sure that the coal lobbyists and the Minerals Council continue to get their money.
Authorities were watching closely. Resources from the mounted unit, riot squad and water police deployed to regain control and prevent any further disruptions.
You just never know what happens in these type of things, and it's better to be prepared, and we certainly were.
Management says operations will resume here once police and engineers deem the area safe. Sam Burbury, NBN News.
We're taking every opportunity to get out there and just make it a little bit easier where we can.
High fives and cuddles, their good deeds rewarded with love from those back home. 20 cyclists took their feet off the pedals this morning after visiting schools all along the state's coast.
It's an eye-opener and it just makes you feel very humbled to be a part of such a great organisation.
Newcastle's Brett Hadley was among the team, raising funds for hospital family rooms, learning programs and, of course, the sick children who need it most.
They're the best part of the trip. You know, the kids really respond well to people coming into their school. We're there for the right reason. We expose them to something they might not otherwise be exposed to, and they really embrace it.
The cause hopes to raise $200,000 this year.
We're pretty close. We've got a little bit to go to get over the line. We've got some local community rides happening as well, and some spin bike class happening as well. So it's still a few things to go, but $200,000 is our goal.
To donate, you can visit rideforsickkids.org.au. Lauren Kemp, NBN News.
With hundreds of supporters making the trip, Maitland ran out to a home-like atmosphere. But this is the stage where the Hawks are at home. Chasing history today, they were gifted the opening points. William So tried to make amends, but it was a clever play from the scrum that saw Max Stafford go over. Hamilton began turning the screws, looking to their big man, but the Blacks held out on more than one occasion too. The Hawks somehow denied here. Maitland kept repelling attacks, Dane Sherritt opting to take a field goal. The score 10-5, and it could have been more. The Hawks were again celebrating, bursting through the line. Kirisim Lalala held on to the final ball, but it was called back for a forward pass. Remaining tight at the break. The second half was just as tense, errors for both sides as the clock wound down. Hamilton resorted to what they know best, and it worked, although they were denied here. Minutes later, they found the breakthrough. With time ticking away, it appeared decisive, but the Blacks had other ideas, showing the same kind of strength and plenty of heart. Nick Davidson finding the line. Back within striking distance, the margin 5 points, but there was no miracle comeback. A penalty in the final minutes allowed Dane Sherritt to make it 8 points. The final score 20-12.
My first premiership. Obviously had a new club this year, but yeah, it's a great feeling. I'm just standing here kind of soaking it all in.
Yeah, it's awesome, to be honest. It's gutsy effort. When you, if we stuck to our processes and executed, we'd win. And
Plans for a skate park jutting out more than 20 metres onto South Newcastle Beach have some ratepayers flipping out.
Why do we have to lose the beach? You can build a skate park anywhere.
The proposed precinct also includes a kiosk and outdoor gym. Locals are mostly supportive, but are demanding council move the park due to environmental concerns.
Give us showers that work. Give us a public toilet that works. You know, we want it fixed up. We want to be a part of the Bathers Way. We just don't want the skate bowl on the beach. Council's got to be asked, why are you so scared? Why don't you want to take it to the people? Show them what you got.
Some, though, are satisfied and say the park would get more kids active the way the current one once did.
I was really privileged. We would get to go skateboarding and then go swimming and go skateboarding, and that was the cycle. I think it's really dangerous when people from the community start coming in and arguing against people that are the experts in those fields.
Council says it used wave data collected over 25 years when designing the park to minimise impacts on the beach, maximise safety, amenity and structural integrity, and to minimise future maintenance. Sam Burbury, NBN News. Three weeks ago, builders were laying foundations. 3 days ago, stylists were unpacking furniture. Today came the reveal everyone has been waiting for. Scott Cam took a break from the block to show prospective buyers through and encourage them to dig deep. The Children's Cancer Institute pocketing every dollar.
If you are in the mood for a home around this area, you may as well come and buy this one and tip a bit of money into the Institute. It'll be fantastic for you. And it's been decorated and furnished beautifully and all that's included.
The 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom home at Madawi goes to auction next month.
It's just like a block house actually, because it's all ready to roll, turnkey.
Project partners McCloy Group and McDonald Jones Homes say seeing where the money ends up makes contributing even more worthwhile.
It's really rewarding being able to give back to all the sick kids that are going through a hard time.
Sam Burbury, NBN News.
In NBN News Monday, under construction, the mental health community choir helping rebuild lives. And now it's marking a special milestone. That's Monday at 6.
It's no ordinary backyard barbecue. It's the launch of Charlie's Run for Kids, a truly unique charity ensuring Charlie Carr lives forever. A sense of purpose born out of a loving parent's worst fear, the unbearable pain of losing a child.
Watching your child die and knowing that you're not going to have them in your life that's the worst thing that can ever happen to you in life.
Brett and Melissa Carr lost their beautiful daughter 3.5 years ago to neuroblastoma, a disease that attacks the nervous system and claims more children under 5 than any other cancer. Still experiencing the joy of a new baby, they found out when Charlie was just 8 months old, a moment that would change their lives forever, pinpointed to the 4 walls of a doctor's surgery.
I remember the day distinctly when they told us that she had cancer, and that was a really hard day. And then I think you get into, your adrenaline just keeps you going, and you just focus on hope and you just get through stuff.
And just getting through everyday life presents the most difficult decisions. Things like choosing the right time for an oncologist to tell siblings.
Frank told Tom that Charlie had had all the treatment that she could have and that he had done everything for her that he could do. And then Tom looked at Brett and said, "Is she going to die?" And Brett said, "Yeah, mate, she is." And then he looked at me to double check and said, "Mum, is she going to die?" And I said, "Yeah, mate, she is." And then he looked directly at Frank, who Tom had known for 8 years, and he said to Frank, "Well, you have to do something to save her because she's my best friend and I can't live my life without her." You know, and that was probably the hardest day, wasn't it? Like having to tell him, because he adored her and she adored him.
But it's the lessons Charlie taught them in her short but precious life that gives her family the strength to go on.
Just the courage that she had, and she's taught me so much, really.
Every time I make a decision about things in life, I think about her, you know, and I think, what would she say to me? And she'd say, Mum, if it's going to be fun and you're going to enjoy it and it's good for you, then you just go do it.
That spirit led the Carrs and their close friends, Shane and Kylie Waddingham, to establish Charlie's Run for Kids.
The thick and thin of what we do is the realistic part of it is that, you know, we're losing children to childhood cancer, and it's just devastating. I don't know what else to say.
But he doesn't have to. Actions speak louder than words. This Wednesday, Shane will lead a group of runners from Seal Rocks to Dudley, a 150-kilometre trek over 5 days, running through the pain barrier to help others in need.
There'll be a lot of blood, sweat and tears over those 5 days, but in the end, it's, you know, what we're doing is a minor little thing compared to what these families are going through.
And this year they'll be doing it for Arlo Matthews. As the tiny Warners Bay toddler sits in Westmead Hospital tonight, preparing for a major operation, his beaming smile masks a life of chemotherapy.
They did it for us in, was it 2015?
2014.
And we know firsthand how much it helps.
And so does the tight-knit Dudley community. Each year the homecoming just gets bigger. Next Sunday is shaping up as no exception. A special day for a special girl.
I know that she'd be just so proud of everything that, you know, that the charity's doing and that Shane and Kylie are doing in keeping it going, and she would just love it. She would think it's amazing.
Stephen Mount, NBN News.
My legs kind of suffered a bit in the end there, but you know, I wouldn't want it any other way because I'm racing in front of a home crowd and I just wanted to really give it everything to the line.
Playing at the home of the club that beat them last week and were waiting in the decider, Lakes were keen to make it their own. Nick Newman's opening try typified that intent. Points were slow to come early. This from Cody Charles saw the Seagulls out to a 10-0 lead. But it was never going to be that easy. The Bulldogs fought to reach the finals and fought to the third week, so it was no surprise when they hit back. Approaching half-time, the scores were level after a horror mix-up at the back. But a penalty on the Sirens saw Lakes head into the sheds in front, 12-10. When play resumed, the deadlock was almost immediately broken. Jacob Gagai was too strong to be held out. Before Lakes' other centre went one better, bouncing off defenders Josh Charles's rampaging run, finding space down the middle, wrong-footing the fullback to score a memorable try. That made the score 24-10, so when skipper Sean Boss went over with 10 minutes left, their place in the decider was all but sealed. Frustration began to boil over for Curry as Lakes set their sights on next Sunday at McDonald Jones Stadium.
On the Andrew Constance Express. And first stop, Tim Crackenthorpe.
I'd urge people to give Crackers a whip and get rid of him. I'm calling on him to get out of the road. I mean, this is the biggest detractor in town.
The Transport Minister unleashing on the Labor state member.
He's the whinger-in-chief in terms of Newcastle. I just wish he'd stop sulking, get out of the road, let positive people govern for Newcastle. I mean, even the Labor mayor in Uatali-Nelms, I mean, there's an example. What a breath of fresh air.
This minister shouldn't be playing politics, should be focusing on the things that are important to the people of Newcastle.
The extraordinary attack came as the minister jumped on board the new light rail vehicle. A first look inside the city's new tram had Mr Constance very much in the driver's seat, announcing construction work will finish by the end of September, meaning traffic will return to the city.
To remove the Berlin Wall between the city and the waterfront. We've now opened up the city for everybody.
Testing of this new light rail vehicle will begin next month. As to when the entire service is up and running, well, the minister wouldn't confirm a date today, but says it will be sooner than expected.
Well, I do know the date, but I'm not going to say it. What I will say is it'll be in the first couple of months of 2019.
Next stop, Civic Station. Planning Minister Anthony Robertson unveiling the city's first master plan. At least he tried to.
What this represents is real jobs. Jobs for people like those behind me here today.
Union protesters picketing and frustrating officials like Parliamentary Secretary for the Hunter Scott McDonald.
Do you people actually teach students or preschoolers?
Things were slightly more cordial at Market Street Lawn. The former Newcastle Railway Station still a work in progress, but set to reopen to the public by the end of the month. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
With purple signs and megaphones at the ready, university staff walked off the job, queuing from one end of the New Space precinct to the other, students and community members rallying in support. The National Tertiary Education Union claims a high proportion of staff are trying to make ends meet on contract work and are suffering as a result.
Creates all of those sort of uncertainties for people, and they know that the work's there, but they're not sure whether they'll be re-employed the following year to do that work. People who have been on contracts, 1 year contracts rolling for 10, 15, 20 years. So we're saying that work they're doing is ongoing, and in fact there should be processes for them to convert into more permanent employment.
The union is in an ongoing dispute with the university, accusing it of failing to compromise on an enterprise agreement. Staff have been offered a pay increase of 1.9%, but they say that's well below the rate of inflation.
Which amounts to a real pay cut, we think, for staff, and that's happening at a time when members of senior management are having quite large pay increases, so staff find that a bit offensive.
In a statement, the University of Newcastle said it was disappointing the union had chosen to take further action and that the strike was causing disruption for students. Jacinta Lee, NBN News. It was this recording that caught Cher's attention. Connor Wink learned to play guitar entirely by touch, and his voice is something else. His soulful rendition of Believe recently prompted pop icon and Academy Award winner Cher to reach out to him on Twitter, calling it gentle and heartbreaking. And it's not the first time she's interacted with her biggest fan. When Connor was 11 years old, he saw her live in concert.
We were in Las Vegas, seeing her live at Caesar's Palace after a month of stem cell treatment in China.
Prior to that, the youngster had been performing her songs on the streets to raise money for his own medical treatment.
I busked at Charlestown Square near the food court every week or once a fortnight.
And he was no one-hit wonder.
Bit of Cher, bit of Bee Gees.
This year, Cher makes her long-awaited return to Australia, performing at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre on September 26. Connor's already booked his tickets, and he's hoping to turn back time.
I hope I can talk to you again after your show in Newcastle, because that'd be cool.
Jacinta Lee, NBN News.
They're lyrics that resonate strongly with this group. But here needs are met and lives transformed.
While you're singing, it gives you a chance to just leave everything at the door, gives you a rest from what's going on in your head and everyday life.
Michaela Lilly is one of the founding members of Newcastle's mental health and wellbeing community choir under construction. It was a small group when we first met, but 10 years on it's grown to a core of around 30.
It's made up of people with mental health issues and the carers and friends, and anybody is welcome to join. No auditions or anything like that, just come along and have a sing and lift your spirits.
The choir is the brainchild of Karen Harmon, who has a background as a mental health nurse and saw the need for a place people could go for a sense of understanding and belonging.
It's just that lovely sense of being able to be who you are there and just be in tune with a whole lot of other people who understand where you've come from, and we can just have a good laugh and a sing.
It has made an absolutely incredible impact on my life. People in the choir I would call my best friends.
The mental health benefits are clear, but these days Under Construction is also a very professional sounding outfit, having performed 120 concerts. This Saturday it'll mark its 10th anniversary with a special event at the Adamstown Uniting Church, a celebration of community and togetherness.
We are very special. We formed some very deep friendships. People care for one another. Well, I consider it, my extended family, really.
Edwards spent the European summer break back home in Australia, borrowing bikes and riding wherever he could. His persistence paid off, becoming the first Australian to qualify in pole in the World Supersport 300 Series, drawing inspiration from another hunter-bred rider. Once the race got underway, Edwards made a great start. As often happens in this category, several riders spent time at the head of the pack. The 17-year-old Aussie managed to stick with the top 7 until the final lap, but unlike previous events, he didn't push too hard and crash, eventually settling for 6th. The final round takes place in France on the final weekend in September.
Putting engine problems behind him, Matt Hall was flying towards the podium. Focused and neck with rival Martin Schonker. Just one indeed. The Czech pilot claimed his third successive race win by just 3/100ths of a second over Japan's Yoshi Moroya. Hall just 5/100ths of a second further behind. The Merryweather pilot admitting he was struggling with power at the end, adding his decision to perform S-turns didn't help.
I was feeling like a really good run, so I thought, you know what, I'm running the same as the last one, so I'll just make sure I don't screw up the end game there. But oh well.
It's disappointing to get to the podium but not get to the first step, especially when it's only 800ths of a second. So yeah, that's the way racing is. It's so tight.
Schonker has moved into first place in the world standings, with Hall 6 points behind in second. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Feels really good racing young people and old people, junior elite, and then some of the 16 boys. It's a tough class.
public praise piled on from the other side of politics.
The Labor mayor in Newatali-Nelms, I mean, there's an example. What a breath of fresh air from the Labor Party.
Newcastle Lord Mayor Newatali-Nelms encouraged to run for the state seat of Newcastle, currently held by Tim Krakenthorpe.
I'd urge Newatali to stand against him for pre-selection so that we can get rid of this detractor once and for all.
Absolutely not. I think Tim is doing a wonderful job.
The Lord Mayor today ruling out a move to state politics, vowing to remain in Newcastle.
They can go to Macquarie Street and play their political games, and I will just plough on and get the job done in Newcastle.
The calls came on a momentous day for the Greater Hunter, announcing the city's first ever metropolitan plan and the first of its kind for a non-capital city in Australia. It's a long-term forecast, Ms Nelms says, has spent years on the drawing board.
When I say the City of Newcastle, I do mean the metropolitan area, which includes Lake Macquarie, Cessnock, Port Stephens and Maitland. And in that inner core area, 2/3 of all the residents of the Lower Hunter live and work.
Looking to lay down the foundations for transport and land use to better plan for the ever-expanding Greater Hunter region. Samantha Long, NBN News.
We're the largest LGA in the Hunter region, so we're best placed in the region to deliver what the Greater Newcastle Metropolitan Plan has in place.
Racing the clock, Lake Macquarie lifeguards leap into action. The lifeguard challenge drowning scenario, thankfully unfamiliar.
It's not something that we do very often, so to be able to get out there in a training scenario and one that's more realistic certainly helps us be better prepared.
Council says the challenge is as important as ever, with more and more people using its pools every summer.
They're very, very popular throughout the season, so it's important that our lifeguards have all the skills necessary.
Skills everyone here hopes they never have to use. If you're planning on heading to the pool during the warm weather, the advice is simple.
We don't want to be putting ourselves in a situation where we've got to pull anyone out full stop, particularly watch your kids, under fives, keep them within arm's reach.
While we can rest assured we're in safe hands. Today, the team from Swansea walked away the quickest in the water. Beachgoers also have reason to smile. Council repairing the fire-damaged kiosk at Redhead.
And that'll provide much needed food and drinks for the residents out there.
The kiosk should reopen early next year. Sam Burbury, NBN News.
This is the really sad news, and it saddens me, it sickens me to say it, that if that car park is diminished in that way, we won't be able to stay open.
This is Team Australia.
They're a highly skilled and elite team.
Ready to compete in an international competition that chances are you've never heard of.
We all work at Peabody's Wombo mine in the underground up here in the valley.
These blokes are also two-time National Mines Rescue champions, and they're headed to Russia to test their skills against the world's best. The competition is all about simulating real-life scenarios. And training is in full swing.
Mines Rescue have been polishing their training, making sure their skills are up to scratch.
The main event in Russia will be an underground search and rescue.
It'll have ventilation, gas changes, people missing, it'll be smoky, that sort of things, and we'll have to make a decision on how we ventilate and what we do.
While Russia is a bit of an unknown, the team has runs on the board, taking out the first aid category in Canada in 2016.
But we all train at Hunter Valley Mines Rescue Station, and it's just a credit to those guys with the standard of training that we're able to be at. And it shows every time we represent both at a national level and international level.
Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
For the very first time, we have the Beijing Dance Academy coming all the way to Newcastle from China. So they're going to give us a very special performance.
That game really hurt us in Commonwealth Games. I guess we haven't been dwelling on it, but it's been a fire in the belly over the last couple of weeks in preparation for this, and we're really excited to just take the court. We've got 3 new players in the team who add just extra strength and extra variety in our game.
South Africa are improving all the time, and even though they had a couple of their mid-courts out, more experienced ones, they've still got a very good defence end, and I think we weathered that storm really well at the start. But certainly, I think we hit our straps in the second half.
The Kiwi has quickly settled into life across the ditch.
We've had some hot days lately, and it makes it enjoyable.
Matthew Redenton signed with Newcastle just days after the grand final. It was an easy decision to make, considering it was Ernie Merrick who handed him his first A-League contract with Wellington Phoenix when he was 17.
I know what style coach he is, and the training sessions and the way he wants to play, so it's made the transition easier.
The versatile player prefers the midfield, where he'll be jostling for positions with the likes of Steven Ugarkovic and Ben Kantarovski.
They were a really good partnership last year, all through the season for them. So, they've been really successful, and every game I'm learning how they play and learning to play with them, and hopefully can help them out.
The 22-year-old knows he has work to do to secure a spot in the 11.
At the moment, really, there's only a few new players, so they've got their combinations. But, that's another job of mine, is to push these players every day in training, and, they're going to have to earn their spot as well as me.
NBN News has been told Redenton's former Wellington teammate, goalkeeper Luis Italiano, will also be signed by the end of the week. Kate Haberfield, NBN News.
Definitely excited. This is my 4th season. Deansy's been in charge for the 4th year now as well, so it's good that he's got faith in me and expects me to perform this year. 27 and I got 9 taken away from me, so I really scored about 35, but not looking at that, I want to score in the W League last year and they scored 1 and I wasn't happy with that performance, and I definitely want to build on that for this year.
They're only 1 and 2 day events, but the Pro-Ams still attract high-profile professionals. The Merewether tournament featured Nathan Green, Nick Flanagan and Callan O'Reilly.
What's awesome is I get to sleep in my bed that's 2 minutes away from the course. I really love coming out to support the Newcastle Pro-Am events.
O'Reilly is coming off a successful effort at the second round of Japanese Tour qualifying school.
It felt like a while since I'd really put together a solid round of golf and made some good birdies. Finished in second over there, doesn't really mean that much, but it gets me to the next stage and means I get to pick my course to play.
He'll be back in Japan in November for round 3, but return home for most of the big Australian tournaments of the summer.
The goal is to try and finish as high up on the auto merit as possible. Top 5 opens a lot of doors worldwide for Q schools and stuff like that.
Flanagan will tee off in the 2 Australian majors for the first time in 5 years.
They open up a lot of avenues, obviously the PGA being co-sanctioned and the Australian Open being our Open is a huge one, and it's close to home as well, and I have a family here and my wife's coming over as well, so just want to really get myself in contention and kind of get the juices flowing.
Ultimately, his focus is America's second tier.
I'm through to second stage of that, so that's still the main goal for me. If it doesn't happen next year, then I might have to look at another avenue.
The Pro-Am series continues tomorrow at Muri.